Hi, I'm Ricardo Hausman. I'm the director of the Center for International Development at Harvard University. We've been working with the government of Albania for a bit over 5 years now. And in that process, we helped work with the government to develop the concept of the Albanian Investment Corporation. Why do we like the idea of the Albanian Investment Corporation? Because in our analysis of the country, we find that there are many projects that could really transform the face of Albania. You have fantastic coasts, you have plenty of very good lands, but it's very difficult to transform those possibilities into reality, because the process of preparing a project, securing the land, securing the rights, securing the permits, and executing the project has been too complicated for private investors. And most of the time, the projects that do happen come as unsolicited bids of people who are hoping that the government might do them a favor by granting them some assets in order to execute the program. In particular, we don't like these unsolicited bids. We would like the government to develop the capacity to prepare projects well, to think them through, to secure ownership of land and other things, to clear the regulatory hurdles of the project, and then to put it up for bid for potential partners that may come and invest in the country. Our expectation is that by doing things this way, you will get many more projects done with counterparts, with partners that are of much higher quality, in terms that will be much more advantageous to the country because it will be more competitive. In order to do that, you need to invest in a project development capacity. Project development capacity that is very weak right now. And the reason why it's weak is because there's very little space in the budget to support this project development capacity. And if it is done through the budget, it's money that goes out of the budget and never comes back into the budget. We think that by doing it through this Albanian Investment Corporation, the corporation will be able to invest in project development and then monetize that investment, either at the time in which they put the project up for bids, or in terms of shares that they will keep in the project that they develop, so that the money comes back to the public sector to be reinvested in the next project. This circulatory thing of project development, execution, income that funds the next round of project development and execution is one of the things that we particularly like about the concept of the Albanian Investment Corporation. This idea is not an Albanian unique invention. This idea is part of the best practices that we have observed in many countries in the world. In some countries, governments have transferred the ownership of assets, whether they are productive assets or unproductive assets, from a ministry here, a ministry there, to a centralized unit that is responsible for the management of these assets and for developing projects on these assets that can make them productive. For example, we were very much inspired by Sweden, where a public management entity was created to maximize the value of the assets owned by the public sector. We were very much impacted by Singapore, where Temasek is a holding company that owns the assets of the state and manages them actively to extract maximum value from them. We are impacted by things like the Aqaba Development Corporation in Jordan, where assets were transferred to a development corporation, and this development corporation transformed those assets into power plants, ports, hospitals, logistic facilities, real estate projects, five-star hotels, and so on. That can be done not by investing budget money, but by using these assets as an anchor, developing projects that are costly to develop, but that can bring in a lot of money to pay back for those projects, for the project development, and create a lot of activity. We can think of the fantastic coasts of Albania, which are Rogozina, Derzize, you have so many different assets that the state owns and doesn't really develop, or the state owns partially, but these things cannot be mobilized to the scale in which they would make sense for the kind of development that Albanians want to see. What are the dangers that the Albanian Investment Corporation might be diverted, say, by oligarchs or by other interests? Well, I think that with any public sector activity, we should worry about these risks and design for them. That is why the Albanian Investment Corporation has, in its governance structure, two very important elements. The first one is that it has an independent board, executive board, that will make sure that the decisions are not taken lightly by a single administrator. And it will also have an advisory board. And in this advisory board, we expect to see the development finance institutions like the EBRD, the European Investment Bank, the International Finance Corporation, that will help make sure that these bad things don't happen, that they will have oversight and advisory capacity to make sure that the governance is clear. And because this entity is going to have to raise capital in international markets and have to convince these institutions to put capital in the projects that it promotes, it will have to be very transparent. It will have to be very transparent towards its partners, and the partners will want AIC to be very transparent to Albanians and to the world. So I think that we have designed it in the best way we can to make sure that the entity is not diverted for bad purposes. I think that the development finance institutions, as I mentioned, the European Investment Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the International Finance Corporation, would be very excited by the kind of idea, the kind of project that the government of Albania has developed. I think it is an entity that can really affect change, that can really get important things done. It can get major tourism destinations developed. It can help the development of important infrastructure pieces like airports. It can help maybe get something as ambitious and strategic as Kavica may be done. So there are many possible things that Albanians can imagine today that can become reality tomorrow, but they are more likely to become reality tomorrow, and they will be better executed if Albania had this Albanian Investment Corporation. Thank you.